Hello, my name is Lena Lewis. I'm part of the program of the environment at the University of Washington, and today I am presenting on measuring the sustainable impact of a construction tool reuse system. I worked under my site supervisor, Anna Wilson, with Seattle Reconomy, and my faculty advisor, Kat Hubers, with atmospheric sciences. Some background on the topic. The carbon emissions continue to exacerbate climate change, and excessive waste continues to put stress on landfills, leading to pollution in the water, land, and harm human and environmental health. And the production and disposal of construction materials are a main contributor to this issue. In fact, as much as 1/3 of landfill waste is estimated to be due to construction waste, and this is including household construction waste as well. Then tool libraries arose as a response to the need for more sustainable practices and community accessibility to these types of materials. And then they followed the circular economy model, which relies on the reuse of materials as well as the extension of everything's life cycle. So something like a hammer doesn't need to just be used once, it can be used as many times until that material is no longer usable. And we need evidence to support their sustainable impact to communities and decision makers in order to provide that circular economy models like this need more support and grants and continued community use. This leads to my research question, which was how can tool libraries accurately track the amount of waste and carbon emissions that they are prevented through the use of the tool library? For my internship, I worked with Seattle Reconomy at the Shoreline Tool Library from January to March 2024. On the right here, you can see an image of me working at the typical desk that I was at. I reviewed existing research to establish reliable emission factors, such as the emission factor for plastic, metals, steel specifically is a very common one. And then I found that the best approach was to first weigh all of the items in a decided category. Second, assign each material an emission factor, and then multiply this emission factor by the weight of the item to find its embodied carbon. Then produce a loan report for the entire tool library in the desired time period, for me, the January to the March, and then isolating the decided categories. And then multiply the weight and embodied carbon of each item by the number of times that it was loaned during that decided time period to find the total sustainable impact of a tool library. For my results, this shows a table at the very top for the total sum of weights and embodied carbon saved by the Shoreline Tool Library for the power drills, hammers, and wrenches. So while at the tool library, I applied just those methods I just described to those three categories. And the total sums equate to the emissions of driving about 1,300 miles in a standard car or the weight of an average pig. And the power drills found to have the greatest sum due to the high emission factors of the electrical components, which use a lot of rarer metals that are harder to mine. And because of that, they have higher emission factors from their extraction process. And then the greater loaning frequency of them being used more often than something like a hammer. And then the tool libraries can use these methods of using weight, emission factor, and embodied carbon to accurately track their waste and carbon emissions prevention. It can be assumed that the entire stock of the tool library would have a much higher significance than what is shown in this table as well, but I only focused on the three categories during my time there. And the images at the bottom show the comparison to kind of conceptualize what those weights and embodied carbons would look like. From implications, the results reveal that the large, more expensive items like a power tool or the power drill have a greater need in the community because they are more expensive and less accessible for most people. And then these methods can be used by tool libraries everywhere to measure the extent of their sustainable impact. It's not just something seen in the United States either. We see it globally for tool libraries start popping up more and more and more. It's becoming more common. And then this evidence can be used when applying for grants and encouraging sustainable policies within communities, especially all those government grants. NGOs really rely on those to continue going on, as well as big donations from the community. The project designers, including like at-home designers or big construction project designers, could use this as evidence that they should use their available reuse resources like tool libraries rather than first going somewhere like Home Depot or Lowe's to buy new materials and contribute to the production need that makes more emissions in the end. And then circular economy practices have a significant impact. And so we need to expand on their use as a complete public. Once they are more culturally available and accepted, then we'll see more even greater significant impacts from circular economy uses. The main takeaways from this project is that the weight of an item determines the weight and volume determined from landfill, and that the emission factor is the amount of CO2 emitted in the production of 1 kilogram of an item's material. And then the embodied carbon of an item is the weight times the emission factor. And this is the complete carbon of a life cycle of an item. To complete a total sustainability impact analysis for a tool library, this is determined by the amount of embodied carbon and landfill weight saved every time an item is loaned. Then the weight times emission factor equals the embodied carbon. Lastly, I would like to thank my site supervisor, Anna Wilson, and my faculty advisor, Kat Hubers, for all their supports in helping me develop this project. And I'd also like to thank all of the workers and volunteers at the Shoreline Tool Library for everything that they taught me. I learned a lot of practical skills like how to use a power drill and how to put up a shelf. And lastly, my family and my friends for their continued support throughout this entire process. Thank you so much.